Anybody remember reading the poetry of Robert Frost in grade school? I admit I didn't really read much of his poetry until I got older, but I love his stuff. He died in 1963, the poet Robert Frost. It was said, you may have heard this expression, but it's said of Robert Frost that he was to American poetry what Norman Rockwell was to American art. I think there's some truth there. Great stuff, Robert Frost. Probably his most famous poem, most well-known, is it's called simply "The Road Not Taken." If you get a chance later, read it on your phone. It's 3 stanzas. The last line of his poem, "The Road Not Taken," says this. It says, "And I took the road less traveled by, and it has made all the difference." I took the road less traveled by, and it's made all the difference. As Catholics, that perfectly describes us. It really does. We take the road less traveled by, and it's made all the difference. It's not easy, have you noticed, to be Catholic or really Christian in the world in which we live? I mean, it's just not. You probably have heard me say this before, but I'll just repeat it again. I know many young people in college, in different universities, and it is hard to be a Catholic Christian today in the universities. I mean, it's hard. Forget about temptation. What I'm talking about is in the classroom. When you're the only one in class that is willing to speak up or be Christian, and you're given pushback from other students and your professor. That's courage, boy. Have you noticed that Hollywood, I mean, I always have to laugh. When was the last time you ever saw Hollywood make a movie attacking Muslims or attacking Hindus or mocking Judaism? I mean, the ACLU would be all over them, like white on rice. But for Catholics, it's not a problem, right? Of course. I mean, really, we should be flattered. Literally every single week, Hollywood has a new movie about Catholicism. It's interesting, isn't it? You ever notice this? We don't think about it. And I'm not saying, oh, woe is me. I'm saying it's just a fact. Look around it. It is not easy to be Catholic Christian today. I mean, on social media, on daytime talk shows, evening talk shows. I mean, it's just not. People kind of look at us like we're, well, Catholic. And so it takes courage, is my point. Look, if you want to sum it up in one phrase, maybe when we leave today, we follow either truth or tribe. Truth or tribe. And as Catholic Christians, we follow truth over tribe. So what does that mean? It means if everybody is walking this way, we turn around and go this way. And that requires courage, which not everybody can generate. Here's the good news. It gets easier the more you do it. 2nd chapter of Luke's Gospel, Joseph and Mary go to present the child Jesus in the temple, and Simeon the prophet takes Jesus and he holds him up and he says, "This child will be a sign of contradiction for many." This child will be a sign of contradiction. 33 years later, after he said those words, they put that child right there. So what happened, man? I mean, he was only in Jerusalem like a week. What happened? Well, he upset the apple cart. I mean, that's what happened. Jesus upset the status quo with everybody, Jew and Gentile alike, everybody. So it's the same with us. It requires courage to be Catholic. What does the word Catholic mean? Universal. That includes the church here on earth, the church in heaven as well, right? It's all of us. So Do we have that, is my point. Do we have that kind of courage? Are we willing to accept truth over tribe? I'm curious, by show of hands, how many people grew up in Memphis? Can I just see it? Okay. Those of you that just raise your hands, do you remember years ago at the Memphis Fairgrounds, where what is now the site of the Children's Museum? Remember that? That used to be the old National Guard depot, right? So in that building where that carousel of the Children's Museum is now, that used to be, believe it or not, a boxing ring. It's a boxing ring. So a lot of the GIs coming back from World War II and Vietnam used to box in there. My dad was one of them. So when I was in high school, I kept getting in fights, as I've shared with you, and my dad sent me to take boxing there. I think he thought, well, if he's going to do this, at least teach him how to do it right. So I go to take boxing there in that building. And I had the same boxing coach my freshman year in high school my dad had years ago. So I was in there. I left my class in freshman year. I would go every day for 3 months. I was taking boxing with this coach. And for 3 months, I was doing jump rope, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, jump rope, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups. This went on every day for 3 months. And I go to the coach and I said, when do I get to hit people? Like, I was kind of hoping, you know? And he was like, well, son, before you can hit people, you got to get in shape. And I looked at him and said, yeah, I'm not really into the whole effort thing. Like, the effort thing is not my cup of tea. And he said, this may not be your cup of tea. So I stuck with chess. It's much easier, less sweating. But my point is simply to say this. Look, sometimes we have to fight. We have to fight. We have to defend what's sacred. What's sacred? Our faith, our family, our country. There are some things that are worth defending. Now, we do it with charity sometimes, but we have to fight. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. To everything there's a season. There's a season to everything. Time to live, time to die, time for peace, time for war. Sometimes we have to defend what's holy, even if that means we choose truth over tribe. Buckle up. It is not easy to be Catholic, but the rewards are immense. They have an expression you may have heard in sociology, if you've ever studied sociology. It's called the irony of individualism. The irony of individualism. What does that mean? It means in American culture, we love the individual, don't we? We love the person who's the underdog, who's afraid to walk upstream and be different. And yet, we're kind of threatened by that guy. By that lady. Why? Why would we be threatened by the individual? I'll tell you why. Because they upset the apple cart. They don't fit into the group. They don't fit into the status quo. And you know, here's the truth. We have never really fit into the status quo as Catholics. We have over 2,000 years of bucking the status quo. Many of your ancestors from Ireland, Germany, Italy, boy, if they were here today, they could testify. These people were given serious you-know-what when they got to this country. They chose truth over tribe. One of my spiritual mentors, a woman named Sister Rita, brilliant woman. She spoke 5 languages. Brilliant. I had a conversation with her before I went in this seminary. And I was really struggling with my vocation. Like, should I be a priest? Should I not be a priest? I don't know. And I went to a sister and I said, Sister, I'm really nervous about this because, like, what if I'm a bad priest? Or what if I lead people the wrong way? Like, I don't know. I can barely keep myself together. And she looked at me. I'll never forget what she said, and I'll just share this with you. She looked down over her glasses like this, and she looked at me and she said, Benjamin, The graveyard of lost potential is littered with the bodies of the fearful. The graveyard of lost potential is littered with the bodies of the fearful. What does that mean? It means simply, it's as if she's saying, you're gonna make mistakes, Ben. You're gonna make mistakes. But what's far worse is giving way to fear. That's far worse. I'll never forget that. The graveyard of lost potential is littered with the bodies of the fearful. Do you know that 1/4 of Americans are baptized Catholic? That's 70 million Catholics. Can you imagine if every one of them lived their Christianity? It wouldn't just be a different country, it'd be a different world. Wow. There are people in our lives that will steal your peace if you let them, brothers and sisters. There are people in our lives that will rob your peace if you let them. I call them energy vampires. And they may gossip about you because you're Christian. They may float things on social media because you're Christian. Let them. Bring it. We have a long history. I tell people, Catholics are Jedi Knights at surviving persecution. We have a black belt in it, okay? Because we choose truth over tribe. In fact, historically, when Catholicism is persecuted, it actually grows more. Historically. Don't let the energy vampires rob your peace, and I'll close with this. In the first century, one of the Roman emperors at the time, his name was Caligula. Some of you may have heard of Caligula. By the way, that was not his real name, it was his nickname. His real name was Gaius Germanicus. The name Caligula means literally, it's a nickname, it means literally little boot. And the Roman soldiers gave him this nickname because they were referring to him as the horse dung that got stuck on the bottom of their boots. That's flattering, isn't it? That's how much they thought of Caligula. Emperor only 4 years, roughly. So, among other despicable things this man did, is he butchered thousands of first century Christians, one of which was a 14-year-old Christian young man whom he had tortured and killed because he refused to renounce his Catholic Christian faith. Now, as if that weren't bad enough, that same day he made an order that the young man's father have dinner with him. So those of you that are parents, I want you to imagine this for a second. Imagine somebody tortures and kills your 14-year-old child, and that night you have to have dinner with the person that killed him. That's what happened. So here's Caligula, all of his entourage, and sitting right across from him was the young man's father. And the young man's father, going into this meal, he had to make a decision. On the one hand, he wants to lunge across the table and strangle the man who killed his son. But you know what he did? He said, no, I'm not going to do that. And he goes into the meal and he's all smiles. And he said, I'm not going to let this man rob my peace. My son died for truth. And the last thing he would want is for me to give way. So he goes in, it's all smiles. And he's happy, has a nice time. And it was said that Caligula left that meal humbled and quiet. This is why I'm telling you the story. The father refused to let the energy vampire that is Caligula rob his peace. His son died for truth, not tribe. You and I, brothers and sisters, are going to encounter people. They're going to try to rob our peace. They don't understand what we believe. It's okay. Because at the end of the day, our focus is on the truth. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And truth brings freedom. I believe